to be able to go live. Yeah, that's actually 400 feet of hose. There's some beautiful surroundings. I wanted that latest video that John Cordray did about the Laura Owens case and talk about how spot on I believe he is. And I think a lot of the community will agree. Since the very beginning, I don't know if you guys remember one of Lethal Lauren's first videos, one of her first live streams. I think it was titled Psychic Evaluator Analyzes whether, her like her behavior. I don't remember like the exact name of the live stream, but one of her earliest videos had like psychiatric evaluator in the title. But she was talking about, without diagnosing, nobody is diagnosing, but we're just talking about patterns of behavior, right? Like, hey, Bruce, ahoy, ahoy. Oh my gosh, I get to do my Bruce impression for Bruce. You ready, Bruce? And my favorite of the Mary Lincoln's videos, because Bruce goes, oh boy, oh no, oh, Mary, oh no. You know you've done something terrible when Bruce goes, oh no. Which is so much more powerful. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm down with the profanity too. Lauren's given us some amazing zingers. But man, is anything more impactful than a Bruce the Moose? Oh no. It's like a spectator giving you the face palm for you. Like, friend, you've really stepped in it now. Oh, I'm gonna, since Bruce is with me, I'm gonna walk him through some forest. Maybe we'll see some creatures. I mean, and hopefully they won't, bite us or anything. Anyway, talking about John Cordray's last video and how spot on I felt like it was. These are things I've heard a lot of the community talk about that they have had. And I also believe this is why the community is so invested, because they themselves have had experiences with cluster B personalities, perhaps narcissistic type personalities, have dealt with these people who lie and gaslight, and as Dave Neal likes to say, will pee on your leg and tell you it's raining. And what is this? Oh, I know what that is. It's okay. I think a lot of the community has had experience with these kinds of people, and that's why the community is so invested in it, because it's like a personal level of, hey, I've been through this, and I was wronged and was never restored, or maybe you were in some capacity, or I didn't escape in time, or maybe you did and want to help others, like, escape the trap, the clutches, the nightmare that is having a close relationship with a narcissistic type personality. And that's why people are so invested in this case, I think. Besides just generally wanting justice, besides the obvious, right? So, Mary Lincoln is legendary, Bruce. She's amazing. I need to track her down more on social media because she brings me great joy. But when John and like I said, Bruce himself and Lauren have said from the very beginning, this is the kind of personality, in their opinions, allegedly, that is never going to admit fault. That is, as John was saying, going to die on the hill of of their lies, of their fabrications, because that is their identity. I think our streamers pegged it early on, especially after the Maricini text came out. And after remember the timeline. After the Maricini text came out, I believe that's when we got the autism Medium article. Ooh, I got a big hole right here. Uh-oh. It's either a wolf spider or a snake. But so not only did she double down, but she gave us like another illness, an illness that just so happened. And I say illness, condition, neurodivergence, autism. I have a son who lives with autism. I believe one of our streamers was late life diagnosed with autism. And it's a wide range, blah, blah. You guys know, like, I'm not trying to speak ignorantly about the condition. But to have Laura Owens pipe up with a new diagnosis, quote unquote, I think it was a shock to many of us. And we had no idea how many people in the community ourselves were living with autism in some way or another. So when the Maricini text came out, and not only did she double down, but give us the new diagnosis, it was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Then the community was like triple, quadruple invested. It was like, not only now have you like stepped on folks who have had actual miscarriages, had actual difficult pregnancies, had whatever fertility problems that she's faked, but now with the autism, and now, the more obvious thing, even despite all of that, is having these texts confirm what Mr. Maricini was telling us, and still doubling down. In fact, giving us a story like, Greg Gillespie must have hacked into Maricini's computer, her computer. I didn't even understand the crazy lie that she came up with to explain the existence of these texts. And besides that, she and Gingras Esquire wrote in several motions, hey, this is wrong because it talks about my private medical information and this is harassment and whatever, which basically confirmed or legitimated the text, right? If you're going to say that this is harassment because it's your private information, then that's saying that it's true. So, you debunked your own Gillespie connection there, Sugar Bear. So, who else is with us? Let me take my sunglasses on. Hey, Stinkbug Deity. Right? So would I. Stinkbug Deities, I'll pay this lady to come on my panel and talk about autism to an actual scientist. Right? In front of 1.3 million people. Right? And listen, we still don't know. We still don't have confirmation, and maybe we'll never know if Laura Owens actually has autism or not. But if she wanted to speak about it, I'm sure we'd be welcome to hear it, open to hearing, what she's got to say about it. Although, I gotta say, John Cordray's video kind of defies Owens's yikes, Owens's proclamation that she carries this condition. He gives us this great graphic, and there's like Stinkbug Deity. That's what I thought. Yep. That's why I was just saying why so many people in the community are invested is because we also are affected by autism in one way or another in our daily lives. What's up, Cars Heart too? Um, dude, I don't know, but come on with that. Like, no, I don't think autism is a myth. Yeah, come on now. Um, it's definitely real, shugs. But whether or not it's real for this individual is brought into question by evidence by a professional with the graphic that John Cordray brings in. And his graphic explained that these executive functions that she's using are not typical, atypical of someone who lives with autism. And I thought that was really just, it's like that's what I thought, but I didn't know how to articulate it. Um, so I Stinkbug deity took care of that little thing for you. I really don't want to hear that either. So there we go. We'll take care of that. Um, so I thought that was great. And that's one of the things that a lot of us thought, but I think we're so affected by it and so invested that it was difficult to say why we didn't believe her or why I need to speak for myself, not for anybody else. I think it's easy to use first person plural here, and that's wrong. So I'm just going to speak for myself. Why I definitely did not want, I didn't quite believe her. Never mind her credibility, which is shot, you know. Yeah, sorry, Stinkbug. You got better things for your energy, sugar. I know, but, we got better things to do with our energy. Ooh, is this one of the touch me nots? We're about to see. Okay, if this is a touch me knot, then I will touch it and its leaves will close. Let's see. Nope. All right. So just me rubbing on plants. Sorry. Okay. So back to John Cordray. And listen, he's put out, I think, a couple of other videos on Laura Owens in this whole case. And I hadn't subscribed to him yet because I was like, he doesn't seem like he's really invested or that he really knows all about the case. Maybe just another creator jumping on what they see as potential money maker, maybe jumping on the band, seeing the clicks, seeing that the community's around it, so they're just making a video to get some likes or whatever. So I hadn't subscribed yet. But this latest video got my subscription. He couldn't have with the conclusion. Yes, he did. Not really knowing a lot about this case, without really diving in and looking at patterns of behavior. And I thought it was super impressive. I myself have had experiences with what I believe are narcissistic type personalities that you think you can approach them with logic and evidence and rationality, and yet some amount of the illogical still persists. And I think he hit it right on the head that, You're not, you think that you can show this person reality. Like, hey, here's these text messages. I know, living on the edge. What's up, Iggy Jade? Living on the edge, touching these plants. I need to watch it or put my gloves on. I got my glove right here, which is what I should have done. Be a smart woodsy person. But he got my subscription with this last one because he definitely now, I believe, has looked at what's happening. And that conclusion about, look, you're not going to be able to, what's up, Landon Flower? You're not going to be able to approach a personality like this and show them evidence, show them the truth, and have them go, oh, okay, all right, my bad. Whatever, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. I was lying. I shouldn't have done that. It said a hi, butterfly. You know, they're just not going to do that. In fact, what he was saying and what has happened is you get this righteous indignation. This indignation of, oh, you know, trying to show you guys a butterfly. Butterfly. The righteous indignation of, how dare you question my truth? Oh, it's my glove falling. How dare you question what, you know, my experience, when we know that as we see more and more evidence come out is, no, that's not the truth. That's not. Not only do other people who were there tell a more objective and real version of the story, but they brought receipts. And it's been, I think, frustrating, mind-blowing for all of us to see this person confronted with concrete evidence and just persist in this, as John Cordray said, factitious reality of her own fabrication. And you know, I have some experience with that. I think, you know, one of my former friends who was of a narcissistic type personality was a little more nuanced, a little more powerful and manipulative in creating these factitious realities. She would, instead of playing with facts, she would play with people's perceptions and emotions, which are a lot easier to doubt, right? Than like what happened. It's a lot easier to manipulate someone's reality if you make them question how they're perceiving or feeling about something. And I think Laura Owens has done both. You know, not only has she played with the facts of what's happened in situations, but she also tries to manipulate emotionally. And these are high, nuanced, complex executive functions, right? This is definitely critical thinking. So anyway, I thought that John Cordray's video was just fantastic. And I think that our streamers said theoretically that this is how they felt from the very beginning. You know, specifically, definitely Lauren and Bruce. And, you know, Echoes has said it too, but Echoes didn't start streaming on it until, you know, later on in 2024, even though he's been with us since around the beginning in the community. But to say, hey, this is the kind of person that's not going to go back, that's not going to admit fault because, and here's what I've been trying to get to, because her entire identity is tangled up in this lie. And I know for a fact, Bruce said it early on, is like, if she admits that this is a lie, there goes her TED Talk. She's no longer a TED talker. There goes her being a self-help podcaster. There goes everything. Everything that she's hypothetically LinkedIn entrepreneurially built over the past, 10 years of branding victimhood is gone. Not just in her own psyche, but in reality, where people would look at what she's done and what she tried to put out there and be like, whoa, you are a fraud, an obvious fraud. So I even though our streamers have said it early on, I definitely think that we had to get to this point to see her be faced with lie after lie after lie, being busted with obvious public receipts to see, wow, she is really going to double down on something that's obviously not true. And that's what, that's where I've commented a few times where it's like, look, this level of delusion is dangerous. When I lived in Miami, these were the kinds of people that I was terrified of getting into a fender bender with, because they'll just like create an alternative perception of what happened and just fly with that and never back down and make you look like a psycho for being like a rational, objective individual. That level of delusion to me is dangerous. Because not only does it, hurt your relationships or whatever, but it's unhealthy for the world at large. I'm not sure exactly how or what examples I can give of that, but if you've got a large group of people who are willing to ascribe to, something that's not, oh, maybe there is an example. Sorry. Yeah, worldview collapse, exactly. She's got to maintain that heroic survivor narrative to it's her identity now. It's her quote unquote brand. But I mean, I definitely think we had to get to this point for a professional who maybe hasn't been invested in this from the beginning to look at everything up until now and say what John Cordray said. To me, it was affirming, validating, legitimizing, and again, he's not diagnosing, he's just looking at the patterns of behavior, looking at the patterns that happen with these people. And I know a couple of people are in Bacon Bear's chat already talking about this stuff, and I believe it was Marcy and RJ who were saying, imagine like you believe the world is one way and then all of a sudden it's gone. But I just don't think, I think as Lauren says, I don't think she's that delusional. Because if you're intentionally, consciously, cognitively deceiving people, with the whole injecting HCG, you're lying. Like so yeah, she would see her identity collapse, but I don't think it would be like the identity fracturing of what was that movie with Johnny Depp that was based on the Stephen King story that has that amazing scene where Johnny Depp is like all these personalities. It was Shooter. What's that movie? Secret Garden. Is that it? But you see this, the character is a writer, and he sort of loses his mind and completely collapses after a divorce. But that was psyche. He wasn't fooling himself. This was a cinematic case study in, schizophrenic identity fracturing, you know? Laura Owens, I believe, is a different case. While, yes, it would be or has been psyche fracturing to have a large number of people be like, hey, what you're saying isn't true or real. She's conscious of it. She knows it. And I think that's the frustrating part. It's like, look, you're not fooling anyone here. And yet you continue. And if you were just doing that like on social media and just looking like a fool out there, that's fine. But she hasn't. She's been using up resources, costing good people tens of thousands of dollars. So, if you want to look like a fool on your own time and your own dime, that's fine. But she's hurting people. And that's why it's such a huge, that's why so many people are invested. Because she continues to not only abuse the system, but abuse real people. And I say you shouldn't abuse anyone, whether someone is a good person or not. But I just so happen to think that definitely Clayton is a good human, and Maricini, come on. Like, you couldn't find a nicer guy. Following the story in their texts is like, oh man, this is a nice guy. Bruce's Laura is not insane. She can understand the mundane aspects of reality perfectly. Perfectly well. Her problem is a personality. You're right. Is a personality issue related to her ego. For sure. Yeah. And, like I said, usually it's just you out there, being a problem just the people you know. But what she's done is level. Now, this type personality who actually hurts other people, like on a large scale. It's not just her relationships that are affected, but a wide scale. When she's out there using resources that people who are real or actual people in need have the use for or the need for. Is ego maxing a bad idea? Ego maxing. Bruce, should we add that to the vocabulary, to the vernacular, to the JFC lexicon? Maxing. Tell you what, if ego maxing her thing is a thing, she's definitely done it. What's that? All right. Don't girl traipsing thing. What's this? La la la. I heard it. Yay! No, we're not going to do that today. But anyway, obviously, I can't take this conversation. Oh, my glove again. Sorry. I can't take put this conversation into, a single YouTube comment. So I wanted to go live and say all these things because when I watched his video last night, I was like, wow. This is like everything that we've said or come to the conclusion to in the past few years. Things that we already, that I think that a lot of streamers said and that I think I knew but couldn't say until we got to a point. Or yeah, we could say it, but couldn't say with like the prowess, articulation, and receipts that Cordray did. Well, and the credentials, right? No, Lauren has some of those credentials. Cordray can now see these things, I believe, with some level of authority. Wouldn't he be an interesting expert for the trial? Yeah. Laura probably needs to switch from ego maxing to ego maxing. Lego my ego. She's probably not going to get too many egos where she's headed, Bruce, I don't think. And who knows what's going to happen? Do I actually think she's going to spend any time in the clink? Probably not. It just doesn't seem to work out that way for her. But I guess it could happen. Man, this trial is going to be something else. Oh, I know the other thing I wanted to talk about. Okay, so switching topics. Whoa, there goes my glasses. I know y'all think I'm just like a tree out here because things just keep falling off me. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the bankruptcy hearing for that latest bankruptcy hearing for Jan and Ron. I got to turn my neck fan back on, y'all. Sorry. These gnats or something else. Sorry about the buzzing sound, but it's like 90 degrees out here with gnats. And a neck fan will keep them off. All right, so the latest bankruptcy hearing. I don't know if you guys noticed this, and I don't even know if it means anything. I just know that my own experience with court or with law enforcement, or the judiciary, whatever, if people say, or if a judge says, if a judge asks you something repeatedly, and I said this in my stream last night, but nobody's watched it, so I'll tell you guys. If a judge asks you something repeatedly, she asked Jan while they're waiting for Counselor Jamo to get to the hearing. Here's your opportunity to tell me how you ended up here. How did you end up in bankruptcy court? And instead of answering the question, Liz Jan says, well, I'm communicating with the lenders now. I've written, I need to get some answers from the mortgage people. Okay, that wasn't the judge's question. And it's typical that we see from Liz Jan of dodging specific questions that she doesn't want to answer. So she goes through that, and then the judge asks again, how did you get here? Like, what happened? And it's somehow not answered. It's 3 times that I know what she says. She says, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us? That you'd like to tell the court? That you'd like to disclose to the court? When you've got a judge saying this, yeah, I know my neck fan sounds like a bumblebee. I got a buzz in there. But when you've got a judge or law enforcement that repeatedly asks you a question and says, okay, is there anything else you want to tell us? Is there anything else you'd like to disclose? Here's your opportunity. I think she specifically said that. I'll listen back to the hearing, but when somebody from the judiciary or law enforcement says opportunity, in my experience now, that means they know something that you think they don't know, but they know. And there's going to be a problem for you if you're not transparent about it. So, I don't know if anybody else noticed that. I don't know what's going on here. What's happening, buddy? Oh, it's a moth. Hating life for some reason. Oh, he's too much light. He's fine now in the dark. But, and I don't know what y'all's experience is with that, but in my experience, if a judge or law enforcement is saying, hey, anything else you'd like to tell me? Anything else you'd like to tell me? Anything else? And you don't say, that means they know something. And Liz Jan was like, no, all good here. No. So, I don't know if that means anything or if there really is something. That's just been my experience, but we'll see. So that's the other thing that I noticed that I wanted to kind of talk with people. Now, somebody send me a message on Instagram to the Discord where everybody pre-games and post-games. I'm like consistently wanting to get in on chat with people. Finally signed back into Discord and I can't find the servers, or I need a link to a server or whatever. I know I'm a ding dong. So um send me a message, a comment, whatever. You can send me a message on YouTube. Um to one of the Discord servers where everybody pre-games, so I can get in on the conversations. Um, because you people are so smart and so articulate, and you really do care about justice, I think. I mean, not everybody's perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. I've screwed up a lot, but in general, I want to help people, and I want things to just be right. Things don't have to be perfect, just right. Just fair. And life isn't fair. So I'm not saying, oh, everything has to be fair. Just the opportunity for fair. You know? Having somebody game the system like Laura Owens has, that's not cool. One of the things that really chaps my knickers is, and knickers is a British word for undies. Knickers. That really chaps my drawers. Is when Laura, finding out that Laura used one of those pro bono legal services for domestic violence survivors in her original DVRO case, her Klutz DVRO case against Mike. Man, oh gosh. I hope to goodness that organization knows what's happening now. And maybe they need a better vetting process because they helped an abuser. I don't know, Bruce. Like, which one does everybody pregame in, or does that even happen? Because sometimes, like for example, you remember that it was one of Bacon Bear's streams like 2 weeks ago. She was like 45 minutes in and had to go. And everybody was concerned about her and worried. And that would have been a good thing to be able to go somewhere and talk to people about, like, hope she's okay, la la la, updates, but also maybe continue the conversation, that was begun on there, when people are into chat. So I don't know, is that the one where most people pre and post game on live streams? I'm very interested. Oh, and there was one more thing I wanted to talk about. Okay, cool. Thank you, Bruce. One more thing, and this is actually what I got on here to talk about, what I was going to make a video about. All right, this is going to take me a second to describe. We were in Bacon Bear's live stream chat already, even though the stream isn't for another 23 hours, because she's got John Cordray in her thumbnail. And people were talking about, and I think they're talking about that, they said Clayton had described her as looking wounded. And I was like, are they talking about that moment where he rejected her in the car? And that she started crying, red flag, and then her face went blank. And I don't know if that's what people were saying. That was that moment. That was the only moment I could think of where Clayton, although I'd never heard him describe that moment as wounded. I mean, what I'd heard him describe it was, he's like, I don't know what that was. All I knew was it wasn't the end of it, But that look that she gets when she's faced with rejection, or the look or moments that we're talking about where it's like, oh gosh, where she's faced faced with, what's gonna rejection, what's gonna make her snap into going into like restraining order protocol. Um, if you notice at the end of, and I'm specifically referencing here, the end of the hearing, and you have to watch the one that's the official court one, which I think is on Schnitzel Ninja. But in the official court, at the very end of the hearing where Clayton is granted the IAH against Laura, and it's the first one where Deandra is really cross-examining Laura. If you go to the very end of that hearing, the lawyers are sort of chit-chatting, and the hearing is over, and you see Laura like just staring, and it's almost like she's catatonic. Go to the end of that hearing, the official hearing, and look at the very end. It's got to be the one that's not cut off, like where the hearing is adjourned and Clayton's got the IAH granted, and Laura is just like staring into the camera. I think this is the look that people are referring to. Anyway, if you look also at the latest case management conference, and it's sort of hard to zoom in on this one because it's so blurry, and the resolution is really low. But the moment when Mr. Gillespie speaks up and says, "I don't want her to travel anymore," when he does his objection as a victim, zoom in on her face. There's no reaction, but if you've seen her do it before, you can catch it, where she goes into this almost catatonic state. And here's how I know, because the judge goes on to ask a question to Mr. Loiters, saying, "Hey, is that date good for y'all?" And Mr. Loiters has to look at Laura, and I think he actually has to like poke her or whisper to her and say, "Hello, is that," because she has gone into that sort of, and maybe it's self-preservation, that something is happening that enrages her so much that she just goes into this like catatonic state of disbelief. That when she's faced with reality. Anyway, it's one of those, look at the hearing and see if you notice that too, where Loiters has to like lean over and say, "Is that date okay? Are you listening? Are you paying attention?" Because it seemed like she had again entered into that state where it's just like, where it's like she's almost dissociating completely. All right, so that was the other thing that I wanted to talk about. So great to talk to folks today. Hopefully somebody will stream later and discuss all these issues. I think Echoes is streaming tonight, so I'll see y'all there, or maybe in the Discord. Thanks for hanging out with me. Mwah.